I acted as the leader they never had, until the day they handed my role to someone who never lifted a finger. That was when I finally understood what my loyalty had really been worth. The morning our boss quit, the office felt like a dropped glass. Shattered routines, sharp edges everywhere. No one said it out loud, but we all knew. Things were about to get messy. Her resignation email was short, polite, and cold as a January wind. Pursuing other opportunities. Right. She was bailing, and we were left to sweep up the pieces. It happened on a Tuesday, just after our weekly meeting. She packed her things into one of those flimsy banker's boxes, tossed a smile over her shoulder, and walked out like she was leaving a dentist appointment. No drama. No goodbye lunch. Just gone. People stood around like someone had unplugged the office. Phones still rang, emails still pinged, but no one moved. Just a sea of frozen stares and quiet panic. I do not even remember standing up, but somehow I ended up in her old chair. I just sat down, clicked into the project tracker, and started typing. Somebody had to. The deadlines did not care that our captain had jumped ship. At first, no one questioned it. They were too busy scrambling to make sense of things. Our inboxes were full of client questions. Our timeline was crumbling, and management? Silent. Of course they were. So I started assigning tasks. Reached out to clients. Juggled meetings. I checked in on teammates, calmed down two interns who looked like they were about to cry, and fixed the busted spreadsheet that had been crashing since last month. No one asked me to do it. I just did. By the end of that first day, people were already knocking on the glass wall around the manager's office, looking for me. Not for updates, for direction. And for some reason, I gave it without thinking twice. That night, I walked past the dark window reflection of myself still sitting in that chair, and I paused. I did not want it, I told myself. But something in my chest tightened in a way I could not explain. That was the first time I realized the chair might not be empty for long. And that was the moment I should have known. What I was stepping into was not a role. It was a trap. Weeks passed. No replacement. No announcement. Just me, sitting in a chair that still technically belonged to nobody. I was not given the title. Not the pay. Not even a mention in a company-wide email. But when clients called, I answered. When vendors had questions, I handled them. When someone needed onboarding, I built the training modules myself. HR sent new hires straight to me, no explanation. Just, go find Nate. He'll get you sorted. So I became the guy who kept things from falling apart. It started small. One of the junior devs hit a wall with a deployment. I sat with him for 2 hours, walking through each step until we got it done. He looked at me like I had pulled a rabbit out of a hat. Truth is, I just listened, stayed calm, and made sure he did not drown. Then it was the design team, stuck in a loop of unclear feedback and missed deadlines. I rewrote the briefs myself, tightened the goals, and suddenly everyone was back on track. It was not flashy work, just quiet, behind-the-scenes patchwork. But the difference? Immediate. I stayed late more nights than I want to admit. Not because anyone told me to, but because I could see how fragile it all was. I kept thinking, if I do not fix this now, it will break by morning. I missed dinners. Blew off weekends. One night, I fell asleep in the break room with an empty Red Bull can still in my hand. Woke up to the cleaning crew vacuuming around me like I was part of the furniture. My coworkers started calling me the glue. It would all fall apart without you, Nate, someone said once. And I laughed. But inside, I felt this strange mix of pride and dread. Because deep down, I knew something they did not. I was building a bridge they had already promised to someone else. At the time, I tried not to think like that. I told myself that hard work got noticed. That eventually, they would have no choice but to see me for what I had become. But then came the first crack. One that almost went unnoticed. A meeting I was not invited to. It was a Thursday morning. Normal, at first. I was halfway through my second coffee, replying to a string of overnight emails when I noticed something strange. The calendar alert. A strategy session. Closed door. Half the team was in it. Directors, project leads, even a couple of junior managers I had helped train myself. My name? Not on the list. At first, I figured it was a mistake. Maybe the invite just glitched out. I even refreshed my calendar, twice. Still nothing. I wandered down the hall around the time it started. The blinds on the glass conference room were drawn shut. Inside, I saw silhouettes. Laptops open. Heads nodding. Someone pointed to a whiteboard. That sinking feeling hit me right in the gut. I had led every major project since our boss walked out. I kept the timelines alive. I coached the new folks. I handled the budget review when accounting got their wires crossed. But apparently, I was not strategic enough to be in the room. When the meeting ended, I did what any normal person would do. I waited for someone to bring it up, to say, "Hey Nate, sorry you missed it," or "We should have looped you in." Anything. But no one said a word. They just filed out, laughing, grabbing coffee, heading back to their desks like nothing had happened. Like I was invisible. Later that afternoon, I got pulled aside by Rob, our department head. He was one of those guys who always acted like your best friend when he needed something and your distant uncle the rest of the time. He clapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey man, great job keeping the team on course. Seriously, you are holding this place together." I asked him about the meeting. He smiled, real casual, and said, "Oh, that? Just a high-level thing. Big picture stuff? Not really about day-to-day execution." I just nodded. But I knew. They were planning things without me. Decisions were being made behind closed doors while I was out front, fixing leaks in the dam. That night, I stayed late again. Fixed the QA handoff for next week's release. Rebuilt a broken pitch deck for marketing. And for the first time, I started to wonder, if I disappeared tomorrow, would they even pause? Because in that moment, I realized something cruel. Quiet competence is invisible in a place that only rewards noise. After that invisible meeting, I started paying closer attention. The compliments kept coming, but they all sounded the same. Surface level, sugar-coated, and hollow. "You are a rock star. We could not do this without you. Leadership has definitely noticed everything you are doing." But that last one, that was the dangerous one. That was the line they fed me right before asking for more. More hours, more training, more cleanup after someone else's mess. At first, I believed it. I thought, okay, maybe they are just waiting for the right moment. Maybe the next promotion cycle is it. Then the quarterly review came. I walked into that room feeling something close to hope. My metrics were spotless. Project delivery, ahead of schedule. Team satisfaction, highest it had been in months. I even filled in as interim lead, unofficially, for nearly 9 months straight. Rob smiled like we were old college buddies. "Nate, seriously, we are lucky to have you. You are the definition of consistency." Then came the classic line. "Unfortunately, leadership wants to wait until next quarter to finalize any title changes." Next quarter. It had been next quarter for over a year. So I asked calmly, "Is there a timeline? Anything I can aim for?" He leaned back, folded his arms, and said something I will never forget. "Just keep doing what you are doing. You are already leading. Title is just paperwork." I nodded. Because what else could I do? I walked out of that room with the same title I had walked in with. Same paycheck. Same expectations. Just more people leaning on me, assuming I would pick up the slack because I always had. That week, I trained another new hire. Sarah. She was bright, fast, eager. She asked if I was the team manager, and I had to laugh. "No," I told her. "Just someone who refuses to let things fall apart." She gave me this confused look. Like that answer did not make sense. It did not. But it was the truth. By then, I had stopped expecting change. I just kept showing up. Kept leading without the badge. Kept solving problems while other people collected the credit. And then came the announcement that changed everything. A new manager was finally being brought in. But it was not me. The email hit my inbox at 9:03 on a Monday morning. "Please welcome our new team manager, Derek Coleman." There was a little photo at the bottom, him standing in front of some skyline, arms crossed, that polished LinkedIn grin. Fresh pressed suit, hair slicked back, eyes full of that smug sparkle that said he already knew he was untouchable. I stared at the screen for a long time. Not angry, not even surprised. Just tired. I read the email again, slower this time, like maybe I had missed a sentence that made it make sense. He was described as a strategic connector with proven leadership potential, known for driving culture change, an asset to any innovation-forward team. Not once did it mention actual experience in our field. I did a quick search through his profile. Ivy League alum, MBA, worked in consulting, then floated between 3 startups in under 5 years. No hands-on product delivery, no long-term project management, no background with teams like ours. But what he did have, a list of mutual connections that looked like a country club guest list. That same afternoon, they brought him in for a casual meet and greet. Everyone gathered in the break room. Someone brought donuts. Derek made his rounds, shaking hands, tossing out buzzwords like confetti. Synergy, vision alignment, scalable pathways. Then he got to me. He gave me that firm grip and told me he had heard great things. I nodded and said, "Yeah, I have kept things running since Clara left." He tilted his head like a golden retriever hearing a new sound. "Oh, you were holding things down? That is awesome, man. That kind of quiet hustle is so rare." He said it like I had been organizing the supply closet, not carrying an entire department on my back. Then he moved on. Everyone else smiled, nodded, accepted it. But I watched their eyes. A few of them flicked to me. I could tell, they knew. This guy had not earned the chair. He had been handed the keys to something I had already built. But corporate had made their choice. And their choice wore cufflinks and played golf on weekends with someone's cousin in upper management. I went back to my desk and reopened the project dashboard. There were 3 deadlines coming up, 2 team members still in onboarding. And Derek? He had already blocked off the rest of the day for vision planning. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling. And that was the moment it hit me. I had been building a legacy in a system designed to forget me. The weeks that followed felt like walking through a house I had built. Only now someone else was holding the deed. Derek had this way of hovering. Not leading, not guiding, just orbiting. He would stroll into meetings late, toss out a vague suggestion like, "Let's think bigger," then vanish for days at a time. But somehow, he still found time to attend every executive lunch and strategy call. Meanwhile, I was still doing his job. I kept the team organized. I rewrote timelines when scope creep hit. I stepped in when client meetings got tense. I helped Sarah when she hit her first real blocker, staying until nearly 9 that night to walk her through the fix. None of it was new, just more of what I had always done. But now, it felt different. Because now, every time I solved a problem, I could feel it. Eyes sliding past me. Credit drifting upward. Emails from Derek to upper management with lines like, "The team has made great strides," or "My leadership is already showing impact." My leadership? The guy barely knew how to access our version control system. One Friday afternoon, Rob swung by my desk with that same fake-friendly energy he always used when he needed something from me. He leaned in and said, "I just wanted to say, you are doing a great job supporting Derek through this transition. You have always been a great number 2. Number 2. It was like swallowing glass. I nodded, held the smile, and went right back to updating the client rollout checklist that Derek had forgotten to even download. That night, I stayed late again. The office was quiet. The city outside the window glowed in that cold, distant way it always does when you are the last one out. I opened the folder where I kept copies of every system I had built. The frameworks, the checklists, the emergency docs, the templates, everything. Because something had started whispering in the back of my mind. You are not their safety net. You are just the quiet one they lean on because you never let them fall. But maybe I was done being their ghost. And just as I zipped up my bag to leave, I noticed something in my inbox. A meeting invite. The title? Team Restructure Proposal, Derek Coleman. I stared at it for a long time, pulse slow and steady. Because I already knew what was coming. The meeting invite was for Monday. Noon sharp. Private. Just me, Derek, and Rob. I walked in calm, maybe too calm, like my body had not caught up to what my brain already knew. Derek was already seated, sipping from some branded water bottle like he had just jogged across a yacht. Rob smiled, motioned for me to sit. "Glad you could make it, Nate. We just wanted to go over some exciting new changes." That word, exciting, already tasted like ash. Derek leaned forward, elbows on the table like he had been rehearsing his delivery. "So, first of all, we just want to say how impressed we are with everything you have done over the past year. You have really shown what it means to step up." I said nothing, just nodded. He kept going. "We are restructuring the leadership ladder. We want to create more clarity between roles, right? So instead of one team lead, we are introducing a dual-track system, project manager and team culture lead. You are a great culture guy. Culture guy, not lead, not strategy, not ownership. Culture." They were offering me snacks and smiles in exchange for the engine I had built. Rob jumped in to sugarcoat it. "We know titles are not everything, Nate. But this is a great chance for you to keep doing what you are good at, mentoring, team morale, all that soft skills magic." "Soft skills," Derek added. "And do not worry, you will still be looped into major projects when needed." That was the moment something snapped. clean and quiet. Not anger, not even sadness, just silence, deep and final. I realized they were not promoting me. They were boxing me in, putting me somewhere safe, somewhere they could use me, without ever having to reward me. I looked at the two of them and saw it so clearly. Derek had been hired not to lead, but to be seen leading. A suit with connections, a placeholder with a title. And I was the scaffolding, meant to support, never to shine. I stood up, calm as still water. No outburst, no accusations. I thanked them for the clarity, told them I needed a few days to think it over. They smiled, relieved. Derek even offered a handshake, like this was all just routine. I walked out of that office with my hands in my pockets and a new kind of stillness in my chest, because I had finally accepted the truth. I was never going to be seen for what I truly was in this place. And the moment you see clearly, you stop waiting to be rescued. That night, I went home and did something I had not done in months. I pulled out my personal laptop, opened a blank document, and started typing everything I knew. Not a resignation letter, a blueprint. Over the past 2 years, I had kept notes, detailed ones, about the systems I built, the gaps I filled, the relationships I salvaged. I had processes, checklists, recovery workflows. I had kept track of bugs no one else saw, handoffs that would have crashed without me, even templates I created that managers were now calling best practices. They wanted me to be their culture guy? Fine. I was going to be their exit wound instead. I spent the whole weekend documenting every thread I had ever tied together. I scrubbed names, removed any personal identifiers. This was not revenge. It was proof. Proof that I was never just helping. I had been leading the whole damn time. By Monday, my plan was clear. I reached out to a contact at a smaller firm, someone I had mentored years ago, who now ran his own growing team. We had lunch. I walked him through a few of the frameworks I had designed. He leaned back and whistled. "You built this alone?" I just nodded. He asked if I was looking. And for the first time, I said it out loud. "Yeah, I think I am done waiting." He made me an offer 2 days later. A leadership role. Real title. Real pay. Fewer buzzwords. More impact. I did not accept right away. Not because I was unsure, but because I wanted to leave the right way. Back at the office, Derek was still strutting around with his empty plans and keyword salads. Rob kept pulling me into quick chats, checking my temperature. I gave them nothing, just smiles and nods. Meanwhile, I started training Sarah and one of the junior engineers. Not just on tasks, on everything. How to think 3 steps ahead. How to spot the real problems no one documents. I told them things I had to learn the hard way. I gave them what no one ever gave me. Because I was not planning to vanish. I was planning to hand off, and then walk out standing tall. And just when I thought it would all end quiet, something happened in the break room that changed everything. Derek made a comment loud enough for me to hear. And this time, I did not stay silent. It was a Thursday afternoon. I had just wrapped up a code review with Sarah and was grabbing the last burnt cup of coffee from the break room when I heard it. Derek's voice, casual, just loud enough for it not to be an accident. He was talking to someone from sales, Mike, I think. The kind of guy who thinks volume equals charm. Derek said, "Honestly, I do not know what the big deal is with Nate. He is a nice guy, sure, but he is just a good support player. Not everyone's cut out to lead." I froze. Not because it hurt. I was past that. I froze because something inside me had finally shifted from endure to decide. He saw me as support. Support. The guy who trained his team, who saved 3 product launches, who ran the entire department when no one else would. The guy whose work was now powering the engine he claimed to be driving. And all I got was a pat on the head and a demotion disguised as flattery. I turned around, walked right up, and looked him dead in the eye. I said, "You are right, Derek." He blinked. About what?" "I am not cut out to lead your way." His smile wavered. Just a flicker, like he felt the ground shift but could not name why. I finished my coffee, dropped it in the bin, and walked out without waiting for a response. Back at my desk, I opened my email. No hesitation. I attached my resignation letter. Sent a copy of the transition doc I had spent 2 weeks building. CC'd HR, BCC'd myself. Subject line, effective immediately. My hands did not shake. I stood up, grabbed my bag, nodded to Sarah on the way out. She looked confused for a second, then understood. She smiled. No goodbye speech. No fanfare. Just a quiet exit from a place that never truly saw me, despite everything I gave it. And as I stepped into the elevator, I felt it. Not relief, not rage, just clarity. I had never been waiting for permission. I had been holding the key the entire time. The air outside felt different. I do not mean metaphorically. I mean literally. It was sharper, cleaner, like the world had finally stopped pressing down on my chest. I stood there on the sidewalk for a minute, just breathing. No notifications. No meeting pings. No Derek. Just quiet. And freedom. Later that night, I opened the laptop again. This time, not for a report, not for another late-night rescue. I was sketching plans, real ones. I reached out to my new team, the one that had seen the value in me before I even stepped through the door. We started setting things in motion right away. They wanted systems. I had blueprints. They wanted leadership. I had already lived the worst-case scenario and kept people standing. They wanted someone who knew how to keep chaos from swallowing a team. Well, they had found him. In my first week at the new company, something happened that never once happened at the old place. I got asked for my opinion, not just my labor. They wanted to know what I thought, what I envisioned, what I would build if the decision were mine. And when I told them, they said, do it. No micromanaging. No slow-walk promises. Just action. That first team meeting, I looked at the faces on the screen, some new, some eager, some a little wary. And I said something I had never been able to say back at the old job. I am not here to look important. I am here to build something that lasts, and to make sure none of you ever feel invisible. Their silence told me I had hit a nerve. And then came the nods. Back at the old company, I heard they gave Derek my transition doc and acted like he wrote half of it. Of course they did. That place was built on image, not substance. But it does not matter. Because here is the thing they never understood. Value is not something you wait to be given. It is something you own. I used to think loyalty would get me seen. That humility would be rewarded. That if I just held it together long enough, someone would hand me the future I earned. But they never do. You have to take it. So to anyone stuck in the same invisible role, waiting for your turn to come, hear me when I say this. You are not invisible. You are just in the wrong room. And the moment you stop begging to be recognized, that is when you start to rise.